Leaders are increasingly asking me what they should do if they discover that lies are being told about their brand. It's a huge problem, misinformation, disinformation, and it's adding to the whole lack of trust that many of us are feeling. I'm going to give you 3 ways you can help to combat this big problem of misinformation and disinformation. We're at a stage in history where most of us don't know who to believe, and that's borne out in global research and what we're just seeing out there in the community. We've become more insular. We don't trust big business or government. And part of the problem is that so much false and fake information is swirling around out there. Some of it is misinformation, information that's not true, but is spread without malicious intent. And I think most of us have probably been guilty of that. You know, something pops up in your social feed, you're not quite sure if it's true, it's a bit far-fetched, but it's funny, and so you share it. That's actually adding to the pool of misinformation. Disinformation is false information that's spread on purpose with malicious intent. And that is certainly becoming a big problem for many brands, for leaders in the public eye, where people are weaponizing information. Of course, AI is turbocharging this process. Many people are going to AI now as a trusted source of information, and it's simply spreading information that's not true in many cases. And there's a third one as well, malinformation. Have you heard of that one? Malinformation is content that's mostly true, but it's been distorted in some way. Perhaps a key fact has been left out and it's circulated. And we all know that the most effective lies are the ones that contain a ring of truth. And so malinformation is particularly dangerous because it looks like it's true and yet it's not telling the full story. So all of these 3 combined, big problem for many brands. What can you do? What can you do? Many leaders are, saying it's keeping them awake at night. There's no magic solution here, and I know you know that. But we don't need to operate 100% on the back foot either. So many organisations, so many leaders say to me, I'm spending all of my time in firefighting mode. There are some things that you can do in terms of misinformation to get on the front foot. And I want to share three steps. The first one is something that you need to be doing all the time, not just in response to false information. And that is having proactive, preemptive information habits, preempting and pre-bunking. Preempting simply means anything that's important that's going on in your business, decisions, events, projects, things that are happening that are going to affect people positively or negatively. You need to be out there on the front foot initiating communication about them in public channels, but also up behind the scenes having direct conversations with people. This sounds obvious, but many organisations don't do this enough. They wait until something bad is said or something false is out there, and then they're scrambling to respond. Be on the front foot, be constantly preempting by putting the information out there so that you're controlling your part of the story. Don't hand that to other people. There's also pre-bunking, which simply means speaking to people who are important to your business. They might be customer groups or community groups or key people about good information habits, where to go to get the real story. If something was to break in the media about your business, where would those people go to get the truth? Is it your website? Do you have regular newsletters, other updates? Sometimes people just don't know those channels exist, and so they believe everything that's being said out in the big wide world. So pre-bunking can help. Second stage, though, is what do you do when mis or disinformation is out there? Well, first of all, you've got to detect it. And so you've got to actually have some awareness of what's being said about your brand. If you're a large organisation, you may well have a communication team that takes that responsibility. But if you're smaller, you may not. So somebody needs to be aware. How do you know of what's being said about you publicly? So that detection is important. Don't be paranoid about it, but you need to detect mis, dis and malinformation. You need to have some way of filtering it. You can't respond to everything or you'd never do anything else. So Information that's wrong or misleading, certainly that's going to affect life or livelihood or cause distress or disruption to people important to your business. They're the things that should be at the top of the priority list, but there are other forms of misinformation as well. So be aware and then make sensible decisions about what you're going to respond to. You might then have an opportunity to defuse. You might be able to, for example, if it's misinformation, go to the source. Perhaps it's coming from someone in the community on their social media who's not doing it maliciously, and maybe if you can have a conversation with that person, they might be happy to correct the record or at least stop spreading the misinformation. Now, that's certainly not going to be effective in every case. It's not going to work if it's disinformation, if it's being spread on purpose. But it's worth a shot if you don't think it's being spread with evil intent. Sometimes you can nip it in the bud by doing that and save a whole lot of time and headache. But of course, in many cases, you're going to have to move to debunking. We talked about pre-bunking, now we're debunking. So this is now addressing lies, wrong information that's out there, and you need to do that. If you've assessed that it's doing you damage, you need to put the correct information out there using your public channels, but also contacting key people directly. Some organisations have a myths and facts page on their website where they quite openly say this is being said about us and here's the true version. So there are many different ways you can do that. So how might you debunk the misinformation? By being really clear, giving people clarity and certainty around the correct version of events. Your voice and your version of the story needs to be out there. Otherwise, the narrative's going to be completely controlled by everybody believing the false information. The third part of the process is now, let's assume you've moved through the storm of misinformation. Some misinformation, it's like a 24/7 process. It never stops, it's ongoing. But sometimes, if it's connected to a project or particular incident, the storm will erupt and then it will pass over, and you've got an opportunity then to reflect on what did we learn from what just happened? What did we do well? What worked? What didn't we do so well? What didn't work very well? What did we learn from that? That's so important, and share the findings with people across your teams. That then feeds into the very start of the cycle, the preempting and the pre-bunking. You can now build those lessons in to what you take forward so that you're continually improving the way you respond. None of this is easy. It can be exhausting. It can be all-consuming. And in a very low trust world, it's so important that you plant your flag in the sand. If lies are being spread, you need to be able to clearly correct the record and say what the true story is. If this resonates with you and you'd like more support in helping your team learn how to effectively navigate this world of mis, dis, and malinformation, please reach out to me. I'd love to come and run a session for your teams to help to educate them in how they can improve their skills across all of those 3 steps. Really boils down to you controlling what's controllable for you. There's a lot going on in this world that is out of our control, and this rapid spread of misinformation is one of them. But you can control the person who shows up each day. You can control the energy you bring. You can control how you educate your teams. You can control the quality and the hygiene of the information and the communication that you're putting out there. So this situation is difficult, but it will only be reversed one piece of communication at a time by every leader and every team member being willing to play their part and to control the controllables. I trust that has been useful, some insights there that you can put into practice. And thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.